It's saying no sound, so it's probably nobody's getting it. Working out.
Oops. Oh, I have my sunglasses on. Good morning, everyone. My name is Pam Wycliffe, and I am a member of the board of this congregation. Welcome to everyone. This is really exciting as we're doing our glitch finding for when everyone can get back together again in person. The Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Elkhart is a welcoming community, encouraging religious freedom, nurturing individual and spiritual ethical growth, celebrating diversity and promoting a just and sustainable world. If you'd like to learn more about us and this fellowship, please look at our website at uufe.org and stay for our virtual coffee hour after the service. Welcome again.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Judy Darnell, and I have the fellowship life for today. Last summer, I spent 4 days attending the UUA General Assembly. Although it was intense, I found it to be very enjoyable. I attended several workshops, confronted many thought-provoking ideas, met fascinating people in breakout sessions, and took copious notes. Because the workshops were recorded, I even attended some bonus sessions. Each day started with a worship service, but the highlight of the event was the Ware Lecture, which featured a noted speaker. I enjoyed my GA experience, and I encourage you to attend this year and experience it for yourself, especially since this year's Ware lecturers will be authors and activists Stacey Abrams and Desmond Meade. Registration for this year's GA is ongoing, with virtual registration beginning on March 1st, that's the day after tomorrow. The convention itself runs from June 22nd to June 26th. The church is allowed 2 delegates. If this interests you, the church can help with registration fees. Ken Claiborne can inform you about that. And even though we are allowed only 2 delegates, we can have many members attend virtually. Please check out the UUA website to learn more and perhaps even register. Speaking of Ken Claiborne, he keeps a close eye on the food box and the levels of food in UUFE's food pantry. He has informed us that supplies are running extremely low, especially for canned meats and other protein. Any food or monetary donations will be greatly appreciated. The Stewardship Committee reports that the pledge drive is coming along well. Committee Chair William Becker reports that they have been receiving generous pledges already. If you haven't returned your pledge card to him, please do so before the pledge drive winds up on the 14th, and please be as generous as you can. Last week's collection of $45 was shared with the Center for Healing and Hope. Today's collection will be shared with the Humane Society. And to end with some more really good news, as long as our COVID numbers continue to decline, we will start to meet in small groups until Elkhart County is in the blue, when we can throw the doors wide open. So plans are being made for a hybrid service next Sunday with in-person seating by reservations. In addition, plans are being laid for Science and Society discussions to resume. Watch the update for details as they develop. Thank you.
Thanks, Judy and Pam. So we're trying our best to try to get this technology worked out so we can have in person and also be available at home for people on Zoom if that's what they want to do. We're going to keep perfecting it, hopefully by next Sunday. I just lean in like this. So next Sunday, we are going to have people in person. You could probably see the view of all the empty chairs. So hopefully we'll get people to sit in those chairs. We will be sending out a way to do a reservation. If you choose to show up on Sunday without a reservation, you could be out of luck. So make sure you send in your reservation. We will be, like I said, we'll be sending out instructions. We ask that you're going to be able to sit with your family group. For now, we're saying masks inside. We have to review. CDC just revised their requirements. So we're going to see what the revisement is. Oh, I meant to say this first, but I got flustered because I was too tall for the camera. I know all our thoughts and good wishes and prayers are with the people of the Ukraine as they face a terrible situation. Hopefully all the people in that area will realize that war never accomplishes anything, that we always looking for peace in our world. We're still working on round one of the small groups. We haven't reached everybody yet, and we're going to try really hard to reach out to you. If you don't hear from us, please contact one of the board members, and we will definitely get your input into the future of UUFE. Next week, Ken is going to be continuing his message on the 7/8 principles. So we're looking forward to that. We will have some people here in person. And coffee hour after the service, we're going to go to Bloomington. Last time we signed on right at 10:15, but they'd already started. We may continue to have some sound issues, so just kind of bear with us. And the link is, if you go to Bloomington, you go to their website, you could directly live stream them. If we're having too much trouble with our sound for today, you may want to just jump on their website. Okay, great. Well, here we go. We're going to turn it over to Bloomington and see what they have to say and do today. Oh, I forgot to get it in front. So I'm going to have to
You love. You are welcome here with us in this liberal religious community. The members of Unitarian Universalist congregations embrace wisdom and spirituality drawn from sources as diverse as science, poetry, scripture, wisdom from the world's religions, and personal experience. We worship, play, sing, study, teach, and work for social justice together. While nurturing our individual spiritual paths, we are committed to our shared vision of seeking the Spirit, building community, and changing the world. For those of you here in person, I would now welcome you to silence your cell phones or other electronic devices, which I also haven't gotten to say in a long time. If you're not with us here in person, we would welcome you to rejoin us. We are excited to see you as you're able to return. For those of you here in person, please feel free to engage in some time of fellowship after the service here in the sanctuary. It's kind of a not yet coffee hour, but we're getting back to it. So again, welcome to this place of faith and action. It's my pleasure to welcome Reverend Emily into the pulpit.
I'm Emily Manville-Late, your minister of story and ritual, and welcome to this gathered community, which is centered in deeply held shared values, including our commitment to the 8th principle of Unitarian Universalism, which is a promise to affirm and promote journeying towards spiritual wholeness by working to build a diverse, multicultural, beloved community, by our actions that accountably dismantle racism and other oppressions in ourselves and our institutions. As part of our commitment to our 8th principle, we choose to begin each week with a land acknowledgement, to acknowledge that we need to continue to learn the true history of this place and lift up that history as we gather together. And so I invite you into a place of reverence as we acknowledge and honor the indigenous communities native to this region. The Miami,
Miami,
Delaware,
Lenape,
Potawatomi,
Bodewadmik,
and Shawnee,
Sawanwa,
people upon whose ancestral homelands and resources our congregational structure is built. Today, gathered inside our sanctuary and farther away, we may be feeling anew the resonance of that word, sanctuary, with heightened awareness of the privilege of having a place of refuge and safety in our lives, as we have witnessed the loss of life and loss of security happening for the residents of the Ukraine. As Dr. Michelle Grove lights a candle, let us hold all of those touched by violence close to our hearts, in the center of our concern, as we pray for refuge and for safety for all who are in need. Our prelude.
Hear these words. All that we have ever loved, all that we have ever been, stands with us on the brink of all that we aspire to create. A deeper peace, a larger love, a more embracing hope, a greater generosity of spirit, a deeper joy in this life that we share. Let us now sing together our opening hymn number 128, For All That Is Our Life. It is safe to say that we can stand and sing softly here masked, correct? Okay. If you would like to rise as you are able and join in singing, you are free to do so. Blessings.
I'd like to invite Reverend Bill Breeden to light our chalices this morning. Bill's going to be joining our coming of age group this afternoon as one of our substitute mentors. It's such an important role to play as we build community with youth and adults in our congregation. We light these chalices, lamps of our heritage, for the light of truth, the warmth of community, the fire of commitment, and the spark of the sacred, which calls on each of us to care for our earth. So some of our children are now back here in the building, but some of our children are still joining us online. So I especially offer this time for you, but also for everyone of all ages, our time for all ages. I wonder if you like puzzles. I wonder if you like the ones that have so many pieces. I wonder if sometimes you get frustrated when doing a puzzle. I wonder if you've ever had the experience of getting close to the end of a puzzle and realizing that you don't have all the pieces. I wonder if you've ever gotten out a puzzle and gotten ready to start doing it and realized you have so few of the pieces that you still need to go find the rest of them before you can even begin. Our story this morning is one that I've told here a number of times. It's a puzzle story, and it's one of my very favorites. It's called The Bowl of Divine Light, and it comes from the Hasidic tradition. Way back at the beginning, there was a great bowl of divine light that shone out through the darkness, lighting up the distant corners of nothing. And then, on the very edge of time, it broke. It shattered into millions and millions of pieces that sparkled and swirled and fell into our world. It became a part of each human being and all creatures. It became a part of trees and radishes and other growing things. It became a part of rocks and oceans, a part of stars and sunshine, and of our earth itself. The tiny sparks of the divine ran through all things. And it became our holy task as human beings to find those sparks of holiness and bring them back together into right relationship, one with another. And if we could ever complete this task, we could bring about our world becoming once again a place entirely run through with holiness. So this morning we're remembering that we, each of us, are a part of the puzzle. You and me and every other human being on our planet are a piece of the puzzle of creating holiness in our world. In this last week, as we focus on our February congregational theme of widening the circle, we're going to hear some stories of individual experiences. And we're going to make space to consider how we are together and apart in response to those stories.
Hi, I'm Denise Breeden-Ost, a member of the congregation. When this COVID memorial project began that you can see parts of hanging around the sanctuary, I was hesitant at first to join in writing the numbers on those paper rolls. There were so many numbers and it felt overwhelming. I thought it just might make me more depressed. On the other hand, I knew that ritual can be a powerful tool for me. And I trusted Reverend Emily's gift for bringing ritual to our community. So I thought I'd try it, just one roll, and if it was too overwhelming, I could stop. I didn't stop. Here are some things I've noticed while writing several thousand numbers. Writing these numbers has been a mostly solitary activity, but knowing that others are doing it too makes me feel connected to them, working together for a common purpose, even when we couldn't be together in person. And then when the number rolls are collected and hung here in the sanctuary, they aren't isolated anymore. They've been here even when most of us couldn't be here, a physical expression of our active community. During worship services, the minister often talks about the date on which our country had reached the number of deaths we've recorded so far, telling what was happening nationally, locally, and in our church at that time. I've been surprised at how powerfully grounding that has been for me. Like many people, I've found my sense of time has gotten distorted the past couple of years. When we pause and pay attention to a particular moment in time, and connect that to a physical and creative manifestation that's here in our sanctuary, I feel a moment of orientation, a chance to look around, to see where we've been, to remember. In the world at large and in my own extended family, I've witnessed a lot of denial, carelessness, arrogance, and ignorance. This has hurt and killed people I love. Participating in this memorial reminds me that I am part of a community that will keep learning and saying what is true. A community where we do our best to keep each other safe. A community where we may get confused or tired or impatient with all this uncertainty, but where we come back to the best facts we have and we help each other stay clear. It's a community where we can do things together that I can't do alone. This is a pretty weird thing to do, writing numbers on rolls of paper and hanging them from the ceiling. It's a human thing to do, the kind of thing humans have always done when we're struggling to live with hard truths and find our way together. It helps. It matters. I'm thankful to be part of it.
So often, when we're dealing with something hard, we try to do it alone. I wonder how holding hard experiences in a larger community might transform your experience of illness, loss, of grief in this pandemic and at other times. I wonder what experience, what story you might want to bring to community.
When I was in the 3rd grade, a classmate bumped me and said, "Hey, check that girl out." I looked at him and shrugged. I didn't know what he was talking about. See, it wasn't that I didn't like girls. I had dated a girl in the 2nd grade. And I would go out with another girl by year's end. But this whole concept of sexuality, it would linger for me as a mystery. Something about free and responsible search for truth and meaning might have been helpful then. But that applies to our whole lives, right? Later on, as a freshman, I caught the attention of a senior girl. People whispered about how she wanted to take my virginity. But in our intimate interaction, she told me she didn't want to make me do anything I wasn't ready. Until I was ready. Turns out that our culture creates this sport in which a home run is the goal as a euphemism for overcoming the inherent flaw of virginity. Well, that's not an inherent goal for everyone. So in my undergraduate exploration, I considered concepts of celibacy and platonic regard for all others, only to be told by the men in my Bible study group that, don't worry, God has a woman for you. And they say that Unitarian Universalism is heresy. You see, for me, sex isn't the goal. It's not even an essential component of what drives me. And if I die a virgin, I won't be any worse for wear. Heck, I'm 33, so I only have 7 more years until I can appeal to Steve Carell as a role model for romantic comedy. During the pandemic, I watched a recorded workshop by the LGBTQ+ Center on campus that was an intro to sexuality. Viewers at home should see a link in the chat, and y'all here can check it out later, or talk to me and I can link you. Around 52 minutes in, the presenter covers something called A-spec, or the spectrum of asexuality. Underneath that umbrella are graysexual and demisexual, both of which immediately resonated with my experience. The former, gray, covers a fuzzy area between asexuality, complete lack of sexuality, and sexual activity of various sorts. The latter, demisexuality, is a sexual attraction that develops after forming a close emotional bond. Though members of this congregation have responded to that description with, "So how things are supposed to happen?" I would say that's the story we tell, but have you heard of Tinder? You see, my story, my life, hasn't yet produced an emotional bond deep enough to transition past glances into sexual activity. And it may never progress that way. But for now, I will fly my flag proudly knowing that my story has a place and a color palette that I already adopted.
In hearing this story and many, I wonder what stories are in yourself and the communities in which you are part that we both tell and don't tell. I wonder which ones of those have been culturally shamed for inappropriate reasons. And I wonder how this community can go beyond that to embrace these stories with joy and with freedom and, most of all, with love.
Each week as we gather, we're in the presence of our COVID memorial installation. This morning we have in our sanctuary numbers equal to the number of people we had lost in the United States as of January 20th, 2021. On this date, Joseph Biden was sworn in as president. Kamala Harris was sworn in as vice president. And we heard Amanda Gorman's inspiring words calling us to heal our nation and world in the face of racism and the pandemic. She wrote, "Let the globe, if nothing else, say this is true, that even as we grieved, we grew, that even as we hurt, we hoped, that even as we tired, we tried." On this day, as we remember that day, I would urge you to go back and listen to her whole poem again. For her words still ring true, calling us to rise and remember, as she said, there is always light, if only we're brave enough to see it. If only we're brave enough to be it. Thank you for your loving witness here today. This is the time set aside each Sunday for the collection of the morning's offering. Each Sunday, 25% of our non-pledge offering is given to support the Nest, Child Care and Early Education Center. The Nest is a highly accredited child care program serving children whose families are currently experiencing homelessness. If you're joining us online today, we ask that you give generously via our secure giving module, the link of which will be projected and can also be found in the comments section on Facebook. Those of you who are here in the room are also encouraged to join in giving online or by leaving your offering in the box beside the door as you leave. Along with engaging with the offering, we invite you to take this time to light a candle to mark a joy or sorrow that may be touching your life right now. Our board members will also light candles here in the sanctuary. If you are here in this sacred space today or are unable to light a candle where you are, know that our board members will be lighting these candles for you. The morning's offering will now be given and gratefully received.
So for the past 10 years, my family has lived in 4 different places, different communities in West Virginia, New Jersey, South Dakota, and the state of Illinois. Now we currently, just last August, moved to a community called Galena, Illinois, which is about 2.5 hours west of Chicago. Now, being new to the community, we do not know a lot about what is appropriate or not appropriate, what is accepted or not accepted. And our daughter, being a freshman in high school, has joined the band, so we became music boosters and were a part of the Music Booster Trivia Night fundraiser in January. Apparently, this is a big event. People have teams, and Trivia Bob comes and does great trivia with the tables of teams. The teams come with, what is it? Themes. They all have themes, they all have costumes, and they get prizes for such themes. So, needless to say, we were surprised when one of the themes, which was called Kings and Queens, had one of their characters at the table as Michael Jackson, and he came in blackface. Now, we're new to this community. We did not know how this community responds. And we have lived in communities like in South Dakota and West Virginia, where people go, that's no big deal. And we know it's a big deal. We know it's wrong. So the newspaper got wind of this and wrote an editorial and said, "Shame on you. Blackface is not appropriate And that should not have happened. And somebody should have said something. And thank you to those who did say something. So that was my first cue, that this community actually would like to engage in these conversations around race and behavior and how to shift our culture so that we are not ignorant of these things. And yet, that article, that editorial, there was something about it that was wrong to me. And all of a sudden it hit me. It pointed fingers and it did not open up the conversation. And I imagined exactly what was going to happen. The community was going to divide and people go, yes, that's right. And the other side was going to go, no, he was totally okay to do that. And the divide, where do you have the conversation when you have that kind of divide? Where was the invitation to conversation so that we could all learn to be better? And so I started to do my own reflecting. I was at that event. I did not say anything. I have work to do. And I also started to look at all the other tables. Our Music Boosters table was a table that celebrated Hawaii. Where did we misappropriate? Where did we go wrong? So I wrote a letter to the editor saying, I'm doing my own reflective work here. I've got work to do. And I hope that everybody in this community will also join in reflecting, not just in pointing fingers, and that's not to say we shouldn't disrupt, because we do need to disrupt bad behavior, but in that engagement that we all need to do in being better so that we can shift this culture away from a white-centered culture to one that centers all of these voices. My friends, you are invited to that.
Michelle's story reminds me much of my childhood in southern Indiana, and it requires me to ask myself a question: what can we do? What can I do to broaden my understanding of those misappropriations, but even more so, the misunderstanding and the boundaries we put between us and other people? I'd like to enter into a moment of silence. A few weeks ago, last week when we were here, there were rumors of war, and indeed the wolves of war have been loosened. I would remind you or announce to you that next Sunday there's a worldwide day of calls for peace action, and we will be gathering at the courthouse, which we've gathered at many times, at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Regardless of the weather, we'll be there to call for peace and to stand with the people of Ukraine and to pray for a peaceful resolution of this battle. Let us enter into a moment of silence. eternal spirit of life. We send a voice in four directions into earth and sky. And in the name of all that is sacred in these gathered hearts and the hearts around the world who pray for peace, we are reminded of the old adage that when elephants fight, it is the grass that withers. And when the dogs of war are released upon the earth again, it is the children who will suffer the most. We draw a circle around those children all around the world. We draw a circle around the people in Ukraine, the hundreds of thousands of refugees. We draw a circle around Europe. We draw a circle around Russia. We draw a circle around our globe. And we say, how long will it be till we learn the ways of peace? Let us hold those things in our hearts today. Let us know that Super Bowls and basketball and all those things are fun. But in the end, being human, being fully human, means understanding who we are, where we are, and what we are to do in the face of war. We draw a circle around all those who are sick in mind, body, or spirit. And we draw a circle around ourselves, for surely our spirits are beaten down at times. In four directions to earth and sky, in the name of all that is sacred in these hearts, we do so send a voice. Blessed be. Our gift of music.
No one stands alone, we stand
as often happens when the choir sings, you feel like you're ready to go home, everything's done. But we're not. By the way, Ray was planning on playing some music today for Natalia Shaw in honor of her mother, who is Ukrainian and who composed music. Maybe we can have that in the future, I hope. But we have a personal connection really to the Ukrainian situation through Natalia and her family, and obviously just as human beings. And I also want to say welcome to our Minister Emeritus, Reverend Barbara Carlson. It's good to see you here again, Barbara. It's been a while since I've seen you. If it wasn't for Barbara, I would have never become a Unitarian Universalist minister. She's the one that kind of got me drafted in here. It's good to be with you today. I want to share with you the title of my little thing is called The Butterfly Effect. You probably remember a few years ago when atmospheric scientists were saying when a butterfly flaps its wings in the Andes, it causes tsunamis in Europe and so forth because of the vibrations that we all live with. And we never know what the ramifications of our actions are. And I'm going to honor a book. It was, and I do this to raise the importance of religious education, not only with children, but with adults and what we do here. We never know when the butterfly flaps its wings, what's going to happen. A few years back when I was retiring from this congregation, I think it was a 5th and 6th grade class in our RE department with Wendy Bethel, Robert Port, and Matthias Weber as our teachers, decided to put out a book and write a book about my life and becoming a UU and so forth. And they did this book. It's called Always Wanted. And there are some factual errors in it, but that doesn't really matter. The children drew all the illustrations in it, and it's all kinds of pictures. But what happened with this book totally blew me away. I sent one to my guy on death row, and federal death row, and he passed it around the range, and all the guys read it and were excited by it. Glenda sent one to Philip Stroud, who was at that time in the Wabash Valley Prison, and he passed it on to a friend of his named Kanan. Kanan was the perfect prisoner, never written up for anything, never been in trouble. He was a typist, he was educated, and he made money in prison by typing all the other prisoners' legal work for them. He was just never a problem to anyone. And Kanan read this book. A few weeks after that, Kanan was coming across the yard and met Philip, and Philip noticed that he had something under his shirt. And he said, "What do you got, man?" And he raised his shirt up, and it was a padlock on a belt. It's one of the most lethal weapons in prison. And Philip said, "What are you doing, man? What are you doing with that?" Kanan said, "I decided that the first white person I saw today, I was going to kill." He said, "Why?" He said, "Last night, they had a pod officer in that cell block that was racist, played terrible country music all night long, but blaring over the PA, and called them names and all kinds of things. And when Kanan was coming out of his cell that evening at one point, the pod officer threw the door shut and pinned him. And he's stuck in his door. And the pod officer is saying over the loudspeaker, 'What are you going to do now, boy? What are you going to do now, boy?' Kanan said, 'My mind snapped. And I decided the next white person I saw was going to be a dead white person.' But he said, as I came out the door this morning, I got to thinking about that book you shared with me and how the Breedens made different choices and changed their lives. And I decided I could make a different choice too. So this book, written and put together in this church by a religious education class of children and their teachers, saved 2 lives. One was a white life that Kanan was going to take. But if you kill a fellow prisoner in prison, it's an automatic death sentence. So this book saved a white life and a black life. We never know when the butterfly flaps what will come of it. But we need to be doing our part. We need to be doing it in religious education and social justice, just like these food pantry items that we're doing here. We need to be reaching out. Each one of us can do something. Each one of us have wings to flap. And when we do, we bless the world. That's the amazing story of this book. And I want to really honor the teachers and the kids of that class who have now grown up. That's been 7, 8 years ago. And I hope all of them find out what happened with the book that they put together. Blessed be.
Witnessing all the lives brought into this room. I wonder where you have done something that has changed the life of someone. I wonder where learning has played a valuable role in you becoming who you are today and who we are today as a community. And I witness to the children, youth, who sometimes are invisible and sometimes seen as inferior, but are not.
In our congregation, we aspire to embrace the diverse experiences and commitments of differing individuals and groups. We have, through the years, learned that that can sometimes lead to hurt and hard feelings as we struggle to understand one another. And we've also experienced times of great enlightenment and new connections. Like when we witnessed the prophetic voices of our youth and young adults as we were considering whether or not to adopt our 8th principle that calls us to address systems of oppression, and then voted unanimously to affirm it. Both of these kinds of experience are a part of building community. Because whether we are struggling or thriving, in this place we've heard and known people we would not have encountered elsewhere, and we have grown and learned. To reclaim those gifts of community, it's important that we are coming together again here in this space as we feel safe to do so. And it's important to sustain our online connections. It's important to participate in groups or classes when we can. This week, Reverend Barbara Child is starting up Still Building Your Own Theology to explore spiritual paths, ethics, and meaning-making, among other topics. There's also still time to sign up for our Sunday evening group, Widening the Circle, which is exploring how to renew and reconnect with the promise and ideals of Unitarian Universalism, having learned about our history of failing to effectively address systemic racism in our power structures. This work is a part of our commitment to the 8th principle and is essential to the future of our congregation and denomination as it helps us find paths of effective action and change. I hope very much that you will choose to join in, following the call of youth and young adults who have shown us the way. And speaking of youth leadership, a few years back, I shared with you an idea that I learned from UU youth conferences, a simple and easy to remember idea about opening ourselves to new connections, complete with a brunch appropriate visual aid. And here is what the youth said. Be a croissant, not a donut. And what they meant and practiced is that it's an essential part of a strong and welcoming spiritual community, that when we get together and start talking in a group, we intentionally leave room in our circle, transforming it from a circle into an arc with space for others to join. And as others arrive, to draw that arc a little bigger, always maintaining a place for more people not yet there. How do we widen our circle? By maintaining that space of welcome, by making sure that we are not closed off from the stories and experiences of others, by continuing to open our minds and our communities, never letting them close down or close off. Be a croissant, not a donut. Welcome people returning to our circle after a long time away. Welcome people joining us from afar. Welcome people newly discovering this place. Welcome people that you know and understand, and welcome those that you don't yet understand at all. Always leaving that space for more to come. The puzzle of our universe is vast, but let us come together, try out ways of companioning one another, and see what beauty we may create side by side, we puzzle pieces of the universe, always seeking those ways of being together that bring out the holiness in each and all of us.
Today is number 318, We Would Be One. It is important to note that this was written by Unitarian minister Samuel Anthony Wright for a Unitarian and Universalist youth at a Continental Convention in 1954. At this point, this conference merged to form the Liberal Religious Education Youth of the United States and Canada. This was several years before the Unitarian Universalist merger of 1961. Our youth merged first and led the way. With that in mind, let us stand and sing with joy, both here and online. Number 318, We Would Be One.
and on all days when we seek purpose, may we remember to draw the circle wide and with love and justice, strive to make all free. On this day and on all days when we seek hope, may we know in our hearts, as Amanda Gorman wrote, there is always light, if only we're brave enough to see it. If only we're brave enough to be it. May it be so.